Hey there, just checking in to see how you're doing with the birthday probability. So the first thing you probably want to think of is how does this relate to last week? You can always rewatch the probability video from last week. So for example, we talked about a quarter. You have equal chances of flipping tails or heads. On a die, you have equal chances of getting any number. They each have the same amount of chances because one number, one side. It would be different if all of these sides were a 6, you would definitely roll a 6, but that's not the case. So these have equal chances. A playing card, 1/4 of getting the suit. So diamonds, you have 1 out of 4 because there's 4 suits. So the first thing that you're going to have to do to find out the probability of odd or even birthday is find out the total number of odd days and the total number of even days. You'd think it might just be 50-50, but it doesn't have equal parts even and odd days. If they had exactly the same amount of odd and the exact amount of even, then you could probably just say it'd be 50-50, but we're gonna have to dig deep and find out exactly how many odd and how many even days there are in this year. So, I always like to organize my information. How are you thinking of organizing this, right? This is a pretty big task. Maybe you want to go month by month. I might make a table of each month. Okay, so if I make a table of each month, that might help me to get started. Don't forget that February is a leap year, so it normally has 28 days, but this year it will have 29. So how many days are in a month? Okay, so you're probably going to want to find that out. I think it will help. You could just do them all separately, but I think that I would also add odd and even counts because I think we might start to notice a pattern. So you might want to look at the calendar. It'll show me how many days each month has. January has 31, so does March. April has 30. I already did February with 29. These are the only amount of days that you'll come across. So that will be interesting to see if they're the same odd and even. If I have 31 days in January, aren't I going to have the same amount of odd and even days as I would in March and any other day that I would have 31 days in that month? So let's complete this table and see what happens. So I really had to think about February. I don't know if you noticed that I went back to that, but for some reason it was easy for me to think about most of the months. For example, all the months that have 30 days, it's going to have the same amount of odd and even days. And 31, it was easy for me to realize I would have just one more odd day because of the 31st day of the month. And then so February, my strategy was I thought about, okay, if there were 28 days, there would be half odd, half even. So that would be 14 and 14. And then so one more for February 29th would make it 15. So that's how I came up with my list of odd and even days for each month. As you can see, any day with 31 months will have the same exact amount as all the other months. So now you can total them up. Have fun with that. So maybe you noticed that I collected this information as a multiplication problem because when numbers repeat 16, 16, 16, 16, 16, 16, 16, that's a multiple. I'm multiplying. So I am multiplying 16, 17 times. Now, if you haven't figured out already how to do that, another way instead of completing it as a multiplication problem is you can do repeated addition. So I could do 16 7 times and use a strategy to add that up. I would probably group. So I know I have 7 tens, so I have 70. I'm going to keep that in my total. And then I have 7 sixes. So I could, some people like to do, okay, so I know 2 6s is 12, so that'll be the same each time. Then I have 1 extra 6 down here, so 24, 36, and 6 more is 42, because if I add up those totals. So then I can put these two groups together, the 70 and the 42. If I do some mental math, I can take the 70 and take 30 more from here, and that'll be 100, and then that left me with 12 left because I took 30 from the 42 already, so it would be 112. So that was part of the odd dates. That was just this section of the odd dates. I still have to figure out a little bit more. 15 5 times. So you can use that same strategy or a different strategy that you like, and then I'll be able to add 15 times 5 and add that to 112. Then I might be able to follow those same steps to find the even numbers, and then you can keep going. So how do I put all this together? I found the total amount of odd days. I'm not going to totally give it away because I showed you a lot of that. Total amount of odd days. And then what's the total amount of the total days in a year? Remember, it's a leap year. So whatever total amount of odd days you figure out will go on the top, and then 366 is the bottom of the fraction. I know it's probably maybe one of the biggest fractions you've worked with, and maybe you're also realizing how closely fractions and probability how much they have in common. So hopefully this video helps you, and if you still need help, I guess shoot an email and we can give you some tips. The multiples portion of this math project is an extra challenge for those of you that need a little bit of an extra challenge each week. We all do math differently. So if you are good with just the first part of the problem, then it's okay to stop there. If you want to dig into the multiples, then you could try that. If you have fun at home with your family working through math problems and everybody's up for it, I suggest digging into the multiples portion of this problem. Otherwise, just stick with the odd and even probability. There's enough counting and other math practice in there to keep your brain growing this week. So I hope you have a great week. See you later.